It was always my dream to buy an airplane, fly around Michigan, and make movies. So in 2017, we bought a Cessna 172, equipped it with cameras, hired the best pilots, mapped our course. I sat in the rear seat, filming out the side windows, and together we produced this incredible documentary of Michigan. St. Joseph was first platted in 1829, and the first lighthouse at the site, located on shore, was built in 1832. The lighthouse remained in use until 1919, when a tower was erected on the South Pier. It was demolished in 1955. Ownership of the lights was transferred to the city in 2013. A committee was formed and raised $2 million to restore the range lights. The project was completed in 2016. South Haven Pierhead was lit in 1872 and still operates today, sitting at the entrance of the Black River on Lake Michigan. The South Haven Pierhead mimics a shorter version of the Muskegon South Pierhead. Dating back to 1839, a lighthouse was constructed at the mouth of the Kalamazoo River, flowing south past the small settlement of Saugatuck. It collapsed in the 1850s and a new one was built in 1859. The Holland Harbor was founded by the Dutch, and they dug the channel themselves in 1849. The first lighthouse was built in 1872 and stood tall with a wooden frame and an oil lantern. It was restored in the 1970s and brought back to life as a historical landmark and is still standing today. The Grand Haven South Pierhead was lit in 1839. P.J. Hoffmaster State Park is a 1,200-acre recreational property that includes 3 miles of Lake Michigan Beach. Mr. Hoffmaster was said to be the founder of the Michigan State Park system, along with his apprentice, Emma Genevieve Gillette. Muskegon's first lighthouse was a brick structure built in 1851. The dwelling you see today is a conical, red, cast iron tower located at the end of the southern pier and utilizes the original historical lantern room that was in use in 1870. The state park is bordered by Lake Michigan and Muskegon Lake, and the channel that connects the two offers a great spot to watch sailboats, powerboats, and other kinds of watercraft on a summer day. There is a paved walkway along the channel that provides views of Muskegon's South Pierhead Lighthouse and the USS Silversides. Muskegon State Park was established in 1923 when the state purchased some 840 acres at the former site of the Ryerson Hill and Company lumber mill in Snug Harbor. The Civilian Conservation Corps was active in the park in 1933 and 1934, building roads, planting trees, and clearing campsites. Most notably, the Corps built a square blockhouse with scenic views from the highest point in Muskegon County. A replica stands at the site of the Civilian Conservation Corps' original blockhouse, which burned down in the 1960s. The Works Progress Administration made further improvements from 1937 to 1941, developing the beach area and extending the scenic drive along Lake Michigan. All year long, with hiking trails, the beach, the channel into Muskegon Lake, and 2 campgrounds. This is busy all summer. But there is a winter sports complex too. It includes a training luge site, ice skating, and miles of lighted and groomed cross-country trails. Duck Lake State Park is a day-use park featuring a towering sand dune. The park stretches from the northern shore of Duck Lake to Lake Michigan. Fishing, hiking, swimming, and picnicking are just some of the activities in this beautiful park, a 728-acre day-use park located in Muskegon County. Whitehall got its name in 1862 and incorporated as the village of Whitehall in 1867. It was later incorporated as a city in 1942. The resorts and recreational businesses continue to be recognized as vacation destinations, with golf courses, marinas, boat launches, lodging facilities, and restaurants. The White Lake area captures the imagination of the traveling public. Winter sports and recreational activities are becoming more popular and round out the region's appeal for year-round visitors. The station was originally named Petite Point Au Sable Lighthouse, which is the name used on most official records. Officially, however, the name was changed in 1910. Although commonly called Little Sable Point Light, it is listed by the National Park Service as Little Point Sable Light. Silver Lake State Park originated in 1920 when 25 acres on the east side of Silver Lake was donated for park purposes by Carrie E. Mears, the daughter of lumber baron Charles Mears. In 1926, the federal government transferred 900 acres to the state, which became Sand Dunes State Park in 1949. Based upon a 1949 master plan, the two were merged, with Silver Lake State Park seeing its new boundaries dedicated in 1951. The park is considered a multi-use park with recreational opportunities that include camping, hunting, swimming, hiking, boating, fishing, picnicking, and off-road vehicle driving. Pentwater's specialty is its location to Lake Michigan. The area is a tourist mecca in the summer, frequently visited by Chicagoans looking to get away. Pentwater has a number of bed and breakfasts in addition to the more traditional motels. Sports fishing is popular in the area, as is shopping. The village has a number of art galleries. Nearby Charles Mears State Park is a popular location during the summer months as well. Ludington is a harbor town located on Lake Michigan at the mouth of the Pere Marquette River. Many people come to Ludington year-round for recreation, including boating and swimming on Lake Michigan, Hamlin Lake and other smaller inland lakes, as well as hunting, fishing, and camping. Ludington is also home to the port of the SS Badger, a vehicle and passenger ferry with daily service in the summer across Lake Michigan to Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Watching the Badger come into port in the evening from the end of the North Breakwall by the Ludington Lighthouse is a favorite local pastime. Nearby are Ludington State Park, Nordhaus Dunes Wilderness, and Manistee National Forest. Ludington State Park is home to Big Sable Point Lighthouse. The lighthouse was first lit in 1876 and stands 112 feet tall. It can be visited from the beginning of May through the end of October. Visitors must walk 2 miles on the sandy beach to reach it, though there is limited bus transportation on certain days throughout the season. Visitors can tour the lighthouse for a small donation. The city of Manistee is home to numerous museums, including the Arcadia Area Historical Museum, the Brethren Heritage Museum, the Manistee County Historical Museum, the Marilla Historical Museum, and the Calava Train Depot Museum. Fifth Avenue Beach and First Street Beach are also located in Manistee. Popular parks and natural areas include Lake Bluff Audubon Center, Nordhaus Dunes Wilderness Area, Magoon Creek Natural Area, and the Orchard Beach State Park. The community also hosts the National Forest Festival in June, Bear Lake Days in July, and the Manistee County Fair in August every year. Portage Lake is a fantastic stop for Lake Michigan travelers. The lake is connected to Lake Michigan by a channel. Boating and sailing visitors often stop here on their way along the Lake Michigan shoreline. For a change from water sports, there are plenty of other activities for visitors to enjoy. Hiking trails are plentiful in the area. An RV park on the south side of Portage Lake can accommodate those who enjoy roughing it in motorhome style. In winter, there is plentiful snowmobiling, downhill skiing, cross-country skiing, and ice skating. Within a 5-mile radius, visitors will find Little River Casino, wine tasting, tennis courts, Bear Lake, award-winning restaurants, several golf courses, and more. A bit farther away are Manistee, Arcadia, Frankfort, Crystal Mountain, the Ramsdell Theater, Interlochen Arts Academy, Point Betsy Lighthouse, and the Sleeping Bear Dunes. Arcadia Bluffs was founded in 1999 on the windswept bluffs overlooking 3,100 feet of Lake Michigan shoreline. The original Bluffs course resembles a seaside links course with rolling terrain, natural fescues, and panoramic views of beautiful Lake Michigan. Frankfort in Benzie County stands on the shores of Lake Michigan. The pristine dunes, beaches, and spectacular sunsets awe visitors and Frankfort locals alike. On March 3, 1925, a harbor improvement project was adopted for Frankfort, calling for the construction of arrowhead breakwaters to form an exterior basin with a depth of 20 feet at the cost of $987,000. Work on the South Breakwater commenced in 1928 and was completed in 1931, when an acetylene light was established atop a 31-foot tower to mark its outer end. The North Breakwater was lit in 1932, and the steel tower, along with its fog signal, was transferred on August 8, 1932, from the North Pier to the outer end of the new breakwater, where a 25-foot steel base had been prepared to receive it. The station was transferred to Benzie County under the terms of the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act in 2004, and with extensive leadership and volunteer work provided by the Friends of the Point Betsy Lighthouse, extensive restoration and renovation continues to this day. For example, the light station has been repainted to its original color scheme, which has not been seen since the 1940s. The site is open for tours on a seasonal basis. Point Betsy is said to be one of America's most photographed lighthouses and the most visited attraction in Benzie County. Because of its picturesque form and location, it is often the subject of photographs and drawings. Even needlepoint illustrations have been rendered. Sleeping Bear Dunes is as old as continental ice sheets and as young as the 1970 Establishment Act that set aside the lakeshore for preservation of the natural resources and for public use. The park was authorized on October 21, 1970. The park's creation was highly controversial because it involved the transfer of private property to public. The federal government stance at the time was that the Great Lakes were the third coast and had to be preserved, much like Cape Hatteras and Big Sur, which are national seashores. The residents living in what is now Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore believed themselves to be stewards of the land and did not want to be overrun by tourists. The government eventually won out in part by supporting the local schools to offset lost property tax revenue and by adding North Manitou Island to be included in the park. The dune overlooks at the Sleeping Bear, Empire, and Pyramid Point Bluffs are about 400 feet above Lake Michigan. The most prominent features are those for which the park is named, are the perched dunes above Lake Michigan. According to legend, an enormous forest fire on the western shore of Lake Michigan drove a mother bear and her two cubs into the lake for shelter. Determined to reach the opposite shore after many miles of swimming, the two cubs lagged behind. When the mother bear reached the shore, she waited on top of the high bluff. But the mother bear stayed and waited in hopes that her cubs would finally appear. Impressed by the mother bear's determination and faith, the Great Spirit created two islands, North and South Manitou Islands, to commemorate the cubs, and the winds buried the sleeping bear under the sands of the dunes where she waits to this day. Fishtown in Leland, Michigan is a historic enclave of 19th century Lake Michigan shanties, turned into hip boutiques, eateries, and other northern Michigan attractions. Set in Keweenaw County at the edge of the Leland Harbor and at the mouth of the Leland River, Fishtown offers endless activities to fill a northern Michigan vacation. Once a port for commercial fishermen who made their living out of the Lake Michigan waters, Leland is now a hub of charter fishing for Lake Michigan salmon, steelhead, lake trout, and brown trout. The largest island in Lake Michigan, Beaver Island, hosts many activities for every nature lover. The year-round population is approximately 600, with a large percentage of Irish descent. Time slows down here, offering a peaceful, relaxed way of life. The design of the Mackinac Bridge was directly influenced by the lessons from the first Tacoma Narrows Bridge, which failed in 1940 because of its instability and high winds. Three years after that disaster, Steinman had published a theoretical analysis of suspension bridge stability problems, which recommended that future bridge designs include deep, stiffening trusses to support the bridge deck, and an open grid roadway to reduce its wind resistance. Both of these features were incorporated into the design of the Mackinac Bridge. The stiffening truss is open to reduce wind resistance. The road deck is shaped as an airfoil to provide lift in a crosswind. And the center two lanes are open grid to allow vertical upward airflow, which fairly precisely cancels the lift, making the roadway stable in design in winds up to 150 miles per hour. Following the Civil War, Mackinac Island became a popular tourist destination for residents of cities on the Great Lakes. Much of the land on Mackinac Island was designated as a second national park, Mackinac National Park, in 1875, just 3 years after Yellowstone National Park was named as the first national park. To accommodate an influx of tourists in the 1880s, the boat and railroad companies built hotels, including the Grand Hotel. Souvenir shops began to spring up as a way for island residents to profit from the tourists. Many wealthy business magnates built summer cottages along the island's bluffs for extended stays. When the federal government left the island in 1895, All of the federal land, including Fort Mackinac, was given to the state of Michigan and became Michigan's first state park. The Mackinac Island State Park Commission, appointed to oversee the island, has limited private development in the park and requires leaseholders to maintain the island's distinctive Victorian architecture. Motor vehicles were restricted at the end of the 19th century because of concerns for health and safety of the island's residents and horses after local carriage drivers complained that automobiles startled their horses. This ban continues to the present, with exceptions only for emergency and construction vehicles. Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore is a U.S. national lakeshore of Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It extends for 42 miles along the shore and covers 73,236 acres. The park has extensive views of the hilly shoreline between Munising and Grand Marais in Alger County, with picturesque rock formations, waterfalls, and sand dune. Pictured Rocks derives its name from the 15 miles of colorful sandstone cliffs northeast of Munising. The cliffs reach up to 200 feet above the lake. They have been naturally sculptured into a variety of shallow caves, arches, and formations resembling castle turrets and human profiles. The U.S. Congress designated Pictured Rocks the first national lakeshore in the United States in 1966. The colors of the cliffs are created by the large amounts of minerals in the rock. The cliffs are composed of the Munising Formation of 500 million year old Cambrian period sandstone. The mottled red Jacobsville Formation is the oldest rock in the park. Streaks on the face of the cliffs come from underground water leaching out of the rock and evaporating. The red streaks you see come from iron. Manganese makes up the black and white. Limonite makes up the yellow-brown, and copper makes up the pink-green. Although the pictured rocks' shore waters are rich fishing grounds, the sandstone cliffs are dangerous to canoes and other open boats skirting the coastline. In October of 1966, Congress passed a bill authorizing the establishment of the Pictured Rocks National Shoreline in order to preserve for the benefit, inspiration, education, recreational use, and enjoyment of the public a significant portion of the diminishing shoreline of the United States and its related geographic and scientific features. On March 30th, 2009, the Omnibus Public Land Management Act was signed into law, protecting 11,740 acres of pictured rocks as the Beaver Basin Wilderness, spanning 13 miles of shoreline.
Hello, this is Joshua, and I will be your guide as we fly around Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula. Our journey begins at Houghton-Hancock. The Houghton-Hancock Bridge was built by the state of Michigan and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in cooperation with the Copper Range Railroad and the Duluth South Shore and Atlantic Railroad. The double-deck vertical lift bridge originally carried vehicular traffic on the top deck and the railroad traffic on the bottom deck. Rail traffic ceased in 1982. Today, the vertical lift span sits in the intermediate level 9 months out of the year, while vehicular traffic crosses the old railroad deck, allowing most small boats to pass under the bridge. In the winter, the bridge is lowered and made accessible to snowmobilers and skiers, while vehicles cross the upper deck. The Quincy Mine is an extensive set of copper mines located near Hancock, Michigan. The mine was owned by the Quincy Mining Company and operated between 1846 and 1945, although some activities continued through the 1970s. The Quincy Mine was known as Old Reliable, as the Quincy Mine Company paid a dividend to investors every year from 1868 through 1920. And now we embark on our journey. We begin at Keweenaw Bay. Keweenaw Waterway Lower Entrance Light, also known as the Portage Entry Light, is a lighthouse located at the south end of the breakwater at the mouth of the Portage River in Torch Lake Township. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2014. The Jacobsville Lighthouse stands on the bluff line overlooking the Keweenaw Bay. Established in 1855 to help guide ships to the lower Portage waterway, the existing light station dates back to 1870. Made of local stone and reaching 45 feet in height, the tower supported a 5th order Fresnel lens, which was manufactured in Paris. beginning as early as 7,000 years ago and apparently peaking around 3000 BC. Native Americans dug copper from the southern shore of Lake Superior. This development was possible in large part because in this region, large deposits of copper were easily accessible in surface rock and from shallow diggings. Native copper could be found as large nuggets and wiry masses. Copper as a resource for functional tooling achieved popularity around 3000 BC during the Middle Archaic stage. The focus of copper working seems to have gradually shifted from functional tools to ornamental objects by the late Archaic stage. Native Americans would build a fire to heat the rock around and over a copper mass, and after heating, pour on cold water to crack the rock. The copper was then pounded out using rock hammers and stone chisels. The Keweenaw's rich deposit of copper were extracted on an industrial scale beginning around the middle of the 19th century. The industry grew through the latter part of the century and employed thousands of people well into the 20th century. Keweenaw Lighthouse was constructed in 1869. Only 1 year later, the light was decommissioned as it was found by navigators to be of no assistance. It was sold to a person willing to conserve the light. The original 4th order Fresnel lens was found, restored, and in 1998 relit. It is still in place and in use. Efforts are being made to maintain the light for the next 100 years. hard rock mining in the region ceased in 1967, although copper sulfide deposits continued for some time after in Ontonagon. Running concurrently with the mining boom in the Keweenaw was the white pine lumber boom. Trees were cut for timbers for mine shafts, to heat the communities around the large copper mines, and to help build a growing nation. Much of the logging at the time was done in the winter due to the ease of operability with the snow. Due to the logging practices at that time, the forest of the Keweenaw looks much different today from 100 years ago. Chippewa ceded all claims to 30,000 square miles of the Upper Peninsula to the United States government. The copper rush was on. In 1843, before the Western Gold Rush of the 49ers, thousands came to the copper country to try their luck. The first mining rush came to Copper Harbor. All travel was by boat. There were no roads. Copper Harbor became a bustling sea town. In the winter, travel was by dog sled. Boom towns sprang up everywhere around the mines. These mines produced the world's copper. The rush of copper hunters came clamoring ashore at picturesque Copper Harbor, Ontonagon, and Eagle Harbor. Boom towns sprang up everywhere a ship could safely find shelter from Lake Superior. Eagle Harbor is a small village in the Keweenaw Peninsula, facing north overlooking Lake Superior. The red brick Eagle Harbor Lighthouse sits on the rocky entrance to the harbor and is a working lighthouse as it still guides mariners across the northern edge of the Keweenaw Peninsula. Scuba divers will find many wrecks just offshore in the Keweenaw Underwater Preserve. Eagle River was once a booming mine town, as well as a booming shipping port back in its heyday. Cliff Mine, which is located just a few miles south of Eagle River, used this port to ship their copper. In 1861, Keweenaw County was created and made Eagle River the county seat. Now it is the perfect place for a quiet retreat. The Sand Hills Lighthouse was an active lighthouse on the shore of Lake Superior and has been converted into a bed and breakfast. It is located in Amique in Keweenaw County. It was listed in the National Park Register of Historic Places in 1994. Thank you for joining with us on this amazing adventure as we share in the beauty and natural wonder of the state of Michigan.